You're listening to Simple Health Radio, the podcast about recognizing medical emergencies and promoting wellness. Your host is Dr. Emron, an experienced ER physician who has treated thousands of people just like you. Information on the show is not a substitute for professional medical advice. Always talk to your doctor or go to the nearest emergency room with any questions you may have.
Thank you so much for joining me today on Simple Health Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Emron. On today's episode, we have a very special guest. Her name is Dr. Julie Gatza. She is a very well-published author, and she's written an article that's been shared many, many thousands of times online. It's called Beating Backyard BBQ Bloat. So there's a lot of B's in that title, but her article is very interesting. So we're very delighted to have Dr. Julie with us today.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Wonderful. Well, tell me, Dr. Julie, what was the idea or the background that made you write this article?
Well, I find that watching people eat at buffets or barbecues or big events, they're all sort of dragged out at the end of it. Their bellies are aching, the kids are whiny, and it's all not as nice as it could be. And I realized that they're just not being as strategic as they need to be. And with a couple of tips, you can actually enjoy the day, feel good, and not feel all bloated and uncomfortable and too full, halfway into it.
I understand. Very good. So tell me about what types of people you target. Is it more for men, more for women, more for children?
It's for everybody. And these principles apply to every single person that's ever eating, because if you really correct the digestive system and you let it to allow to perform the way it's supposed to, you pretty much beat most health problems. And I've found for 27 years being a practitioner that even if it's a neck problem, I fix their digestion because it will stabilize what's happening with their neck.
I understand. Well, walk us through it. So tell us about some of the tips that you have found that really help people enjoy their meal without all the side effects.
Sure. So when you're at a buffet, a barbecue, and eating a lot of food at one time, go for the protein first. If you do the protein, you can break it down. It doesn't have to compete with other things. And we make an enzyme called protease. And if our protease enzyme was working properly and only having to break that down, you can have your steaks and burgers and hot dogs and chicken on the grill. And if you wait about 15 minutes, then you can go for the macaroni salad, the potato salad. That's a whole other set of enzymes that need to be utilized to break down. So with that, waiting that 15, 20 minutes in between makes a huge difference.
I see. So it's all about pacing instead of eating all the different appetizers and variety of meats all at once.
That's right. And, there's many cultures in our society, and they all bring something different to basic digestion. You've got people that use ginger in their food because ginger is a huge aid in that. You've got, a lot of Latinos using spices because spices help to aid the digestive tract, and pineapple in meats help with breaking down protein, and lemon is an aid, and sauerkraut and coleslaw and vinegars. All those things you can eat without too much worry throughout the meals because it does help with the digestion overall.
I see. Very good. And then tell me a little bit about your article. There was a section on there about emotions, and you suggested that people should not eat if they're emotionally upset, physically ill, or if they're having, kind of hot flashes or other symptoms. So tell me a little bit more about that portion of your article.
Sure. I always try to look at the body like an engine, and you only have so many things firing at once. So digestion is usually the first place that if you're emotionally upset, you're not going to be breaking down the food. So it sort of shunts down the digestive system and energy goes to other areas of the body. So the food will ferment in the gut. It won't get broken down. You can get gassier and, you feel a bit toxic from it. Eating when you're too hot or too cold as well. So if, you just came from the baseball field and you're sweating, just chill for a bit, have some water, sip on something, let the body sort of start again, and then you can eat.
I see. Very good. And I'm an ER doctor, so in the ER, we do see a lot of people with stomach pain. They have other symptoms. And there is, in medical school, I remember there was a chapter in one of our textbooks. It was about the sympathetic and the parasympathetic pathways. So basically, sympathetic is going to be your fight or flight response. So that's where people are upset, and so their heart rate goes up, they feel very anxious and so on. And that's because the body's getting ready to do something scary, like an argument or a fight. And the opposite of that is the parasympathetic, which we were called the rest and digest part of it. So that's where people, for example, after Thanksgiving dinner, they want to just lie down, they feel very exhausted and fatigued. And so that's because they have no stress at that point. So the sympathetic and the parasympathetic, that's how we learned it. But it sounds like you're describing that in a very different way. So I think that's what you're getting at. Very good.
Exactly. Yours was much more technical and spot on.
Very good. Very good. And then tell me a little bit about people who may have other health issues. So, for example, if someone is diabetic or someone has high blood pressure, are there some tips that you would recommend that they follow so that they don't become ill afterwards?
Best one would be to eat small amounts and eat it slowly. Let the body have the ability to digest these foods. I'm always a proponent of having protein with a meal. I mean, a diabetic in general is going to have a hard time with carbohydrates. So if they can avoid the buns and the breads and, that type of a thing, the sandwiches, they're going to do better because if you just put that protein in it, it's easier for the system. Salads are fine. Fruit is fine, but once again, keep them away from the protein so that it's not competing with the different types of enzymes. High blood pressure, every one of those details goes for pretty much any type of health concern that somebody might have, and it'll improve overall.
Excellent. Very good. And again, this is Dr. Julie Gatza. She is a nutritional educator. She's the author of Beating Backyard BBQ Bloat, which is available online on multiple platforms. Do you have a website? Is there a way for people to connect with you also?
Yes, if they got a hold of a website called naturesources.com, I'm a spokesperson for this company because they make such amazing products, and one of them for this whole incident is something called Absorbaid. And Absorbaid has all the different types of enzymes that's needed to break down foods. So whether you're experiencing gas and bloating and indigestion, you can take it. Or if you're not, it still will aid your body in breaking down more efficiently at the digestive system. And you can take them in between meals. When you take them in between meals, it handles inflammation in the body. Children can take them. We see a lot of kids with dark circles under their eyes and chubby and tired, and you start adding those enzymes into their diets and clean up their diet a bit, and you're going to notice a much more energetic kid that looks healthier in the face as well.
Wonderful. Very good. Well, thank you so much for sharing that information with us. Do you have some final thoughts or some other topics that you can let our listeners know to stay positive in terms of their health and digestion?
Yes, as a matter of fact, if they're interested in the Absorbaid, they can get on the naturesources.com website, or they can call a 1-800 number, which is 1-800-827-7656. If they use the code radio, they can get some free samples, or they can get 20% off their first order. But one of the things that I've done for years and years as a tip to people, and nobody likes me when I say it, but I can't change the fact that it's true, is drinking coffee, tea, and pop inhibits how you absorb. It alkalizes the digestive system, and we want an acidic system to be able to break down our meals and our foods. So every time people are putting carbonation, the coffee and the teas in, it's basically putting up a wall to ever getting in the nutrient they're supposed to. So like it or not, it is the truth. If you don't like the way you feel, knock those things out and at least give yourself a chance to heal.
All right. Very good. Well, thank you so much. Those are very wise words. And again, this is Dr. Julie Gatza. She's the author of an article called Beating Backyard BBQ Bloat. So thank you so much for making time to speak with our audience today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And you've been listening to Simple Health Radio with Dr. Emron. Follow us online. We have an active Twitter, Facebook, and Pinterest account. Send us your thoughts and questions. And if you have ideas for future episodes, please let us know. And I look forward to having you all on a future episode.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Visit simplehealthradio.com to read the blog, follow links mentioned on this episode, and easily share content with your family and friends. Subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and the 3 and Out Radio Network. Be sure to connect with Dr. Emron on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and Tumblr to send us your questions and ideas.